right now on 5 on Your Side at 10.
Tonight, busy weekend. Between Arch Madness and City SC, thousands of people heading downtown.
We hid stuff under the seats just to make sure it wasn't going to get broken into.
How the recent crime is weighing on the minds of fans. Plus, hungry for more. At just 21, a local chef is investing in himself and St. Louis.
Get the people from the county downtown in a safe environment.
The unique concept coming soon.
But first tonight, rain on the move, and it just gets heavier overnight. How much will fall, and when the winds could whip up a few power outages.
We start with a live look downtown. A pleasant morning turned into a misty evening, and right now we are seeing scattered light rain, but that is going to change. Good evening. Thank you for being with us. I'm Ann Albrecht.
And I'm Mike Bush. We are in a weather alert right now. Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell is tracking the heavy rain, and the Weather First forecast also includes strong winds, right, Scott?
It sure does. As we head into tomorrow, the winds are going to pick up. The rain already starting to pick up, especially south of St. Louis right now, becoming steadier, more widespread, and gaining in intensity. Not looking at severe weather, but we will have heavy rain, and areas of southeast Missouri and southern portions of Illinois could see upwards of 3 inches of rainfall. Right now, it's mostly over the southern side of the metro area, along 44 into downtown, and then heading eastbound over into Madison County, but south of St. Louis. As you go down Interstate 55, Interstate 44, that's where we're finding that heavier rain right now. It is lifting to the north and northeast, and will be moving into the metro area by midnight or so. Here's a look at more of that heavy rain just to our south. It's really widespread as you go along the Missouri-Arkansas border. It is all coming our way as we head through the overnight hours into early tomorrow morning. Periods of heavy rain with localized flooding. There is a flood watch in effect east and south of St. Louis. Those winds increase, especially Friday, with gusts 40 to 45 miles per hour. In a few cases, perhaps stronger. That means we may have some isolated power outages as tree branches come down tomorrow with those gusty winds. More on the timing of this system, when it moves out, and what the weekend looks like in just a few minutes.
All right, Scott, we'll see you in a few minutes. It's about to be a busy time in St. Louis with Arch Madness underway and the official kickoff to St. Louis City SC. Thousands are expected to head downtown. But a tumultuous 2 weeks of crime and traffic violence may have some people on edge. St. Louis police say security and safety are top of mind in light of recent violent crimes. Our Robert Townsend tells us how police are preparing to keep people safe this weekend.
Arch Madness at Enterprise Center and St. Louis City SC's home opener are finally here, and big crowds are expected to hit the streets of downtown for the two big events.
Very excited. Go Murray.
And police know with tens of thousands trekking to town for the long-awaited events, so too will lurking criminals. Redbud, Illinois resident Reagan Berkner and her family are ready to check out the annual Missouri Valley Conference men's basketball tournament at Enterprise Center.
I can't say that I come in here nervous.
Nervous or not, St. Louis police are still putting their beefed up safety plan in action. It comes after a deadly shooting of a man in broad daylight along busy North Tucker. And nearly 2 weeks ago, Tennessee teen Janae Edmondson critically injured after she was struck by a reckless driver while she and her family were in town for a volleyball tournament.
I'm very saddened by it because I travel the country a lot and go to big cities, and they're safe.
In an effort to keep everyone safe during Arch Madness and the inaugural soccer match, you can expect to see more police officers.
Extra patrols will be in the area, and both venues will be utilizing off-duty personnel and working secondary security.
That makes me feel much better. I like having them around. It just gives you a sense of security.
After a rash of recent car break-ins downtown, police also remind fans to do everything you can to protect your car. And remember this:
to please leave your firearms at home, as these venues do not allow firearms in them.
The vice president of Enterprise tells us they met with St. Louis Police, the Missouri Valley Conference, and St. Louis City SC to ensure public safety. They call it their top priority. In downtown, Robert Townsend, 5 on Your Side.
Right now, Cedric Dixon is in custody in connection to a crash that killed 4 young people and injured 4 others. He has been charged with over 17 crimes, including 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter. Dixon turned himself in last night. Police say he ran a red light on South Grand and hit an SUV early Sunday morning. The collision caused that SUV to travel over the guardrail, and then it landed upside down. The roof was on the street. This was on Forest Park Avenue. Court documents say Dixon got out of his car after the crash, removed his license plates, and ran off.
Former reality TV star Tim Norman of Welcome to Sweetie Pies will spend the rest of his life in prison. Norman was convicted of planning the death of his nephew, Andrew Montgomery Jr., in a 2016 murder for hire. A judge sentenced Norman for conspiracy to commit murder for hire resulting in death, and mail fraud. He received life sentences for the first 2 counts and 20 years in prison for the third.
The St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department and the juvenile courts have reached an agreement when it comes to arresting teenagers. In January, there was an incident at the City Foundry involving several teens who were taken into custody and then released to their parents.
It frustrated many and highlighted miscommunication in the juvenile system. 5 on Your Side's Laura Barczewski went in search of answers and tonight has more about a juvenile detention agreement. Laura.
Mike and Ann, this agreement is a clarification of the roles the court and officers have when dealing with teen arrests and states the rules plainly so there hopefully isn't any confusion in the future.
New St. Louis Police Chief Robert Tracy and Juvenile Court Administrator Nathan Graves both signed what's called a Memorandum of Understanding to spell out the terms that are already in place for dealing with teens taken into custody for criminal behavior.
If it's a felony offense, the officers will bring the youth down in person for the intake process to begin at the juvenile courts. But we have discretion in other cases where there are misdemeanors that the officers can release them.
Chief Tracy discussed some of the efforts to reevaluate the juvenile detention system at an Urban League event last week, hoping to go beyond arrest or release.
Let's find out what's going on with these kids rather than releasing them right away. Let's talk to the parents and also talk to the kids and see if there's things that we can do to help, so they don't go out and reoffend, or I want to protect them as well.
The executive director of the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Nicole Barton, says they still have to follow the point system method when dealing with juveniles, which can limit what police and courts can do.
Our gun laws in the state of Missouri allow our juveniles to carry guns. And so when the point system was developed, it wasn't really taken into account the gun laws that we have in Missouri.
Barton says they hope this agreement will prevent the type of miscommunication that happened in January when several teens were released to their parents following car break-ins and shots fired charges in Midtown. But there's still more work to do to help these teens.
Yeah, I believe there's a lot of youth in our community that are dealing with trauma that they face every day, substance abuse, mental health illnesses, and so we want to be able to identify that. We want to be able to provide our youth with the services that they need moving into the future as well.
Chief Tracy says he's committed to regular meetings with the juvenile courts to make sure everyone is on the same page and they're doing what's best for teens in our city.
Today, we know that a trio of restaurants near Lafayette Square will not reopen. Owners of Vin Dissette, PW Pizza, and 21st Street Brewers Bar announced the 3 restaurants are now permanently closed. The decision comes 5 months after a fire damaged the rooftop deck at Vin Dissette on Choteau. The fire only damaged the roof, but the water used to extinguish the fire damaged every level of the building, all the way down to the basement. Owners say rebuilding costs are just too expensive. An award-winning chef is opening a restaurant in downtown St. Louis. He's just 21 years old, but he started his own catering company at 14. 5 on Your Side's Brent Solomon highlights the chef's big plans to open a brick and mortar space.
When you're called to do something.
So we are getting ready to measure out to hang these lights.
There's no escaping the inevitable.
So I started my own business when I was 14. I started JR's Gourmet, which is still thriving.
It's why many in St. Louis aren't surprised. 21-year-old Jawan Rice is opening up his own restaurant.
One here
at the former Shift restaurant at 11th and Olive. He just got the keys.
And everything just kind of aligned. The timing was perfect. The space was perfect. 179.
Now the work begins to make it his own.
And the first thing we did was measure the space, see what we needed to build, see what we needed.
You're looking at the soon-to-be home of Rated Test Kitchen. By day,
you'll be able to come in and plug your laptop in and work.
Then on select nights,
have people enjoy the food. 7 courses, you get to rate your experience. Kind of how we came up with the name Rated, because I want people to feel like they're a food critic.
He's going for a different kind of flair.
So we will be fermenting hot sauces, kimchi, all that fun stuff.
That makes you more than a customer.
And you're going to be attached to the kitchen, and you're going to be able to tell us your feedback right there as you're eating it.
Rated Test Kitchen will feature rotating monthly menus, guest chefs, and food grown from local farmers. You may find Japanese cuisine one month, Italian the next.
Keep the speaker wires.
The St. Louis native is doing this for home.
Something that's new, something that's innovative, something that's a little bit more elevated for downtown.
After working for and even consulting other restaurants, Rice knows what it takes. He's hoping to have this place ready for business by the end of April. Brent Solomon, 5 on your side.
The restaurant is hiring servers, mixologists, cashiers, and dishwashers. To apply, just look for this story on KSDK.com. Also tonight, Project 5 and Behavioral Health Response are teaming up to provide mental health counseling. Just call the number on your screen, 314-469-6644. A mental health professional will be available to talk with you now through 10:30 tonight.
A backlog of cases and a list of officers who aren't allowed to testify.
When the case comes in, you can't touch it.
What one former officer has to say about Kim Gardner's exclusion list in an exclusive interview. Anticipating long lines. The travel list TSA wants you to check off before your spring break takeoff.
This is an intense system, and while we're not expecting severe weather, it's a different story to our south. We're tracking the impacts this storm system brings to our area.
Tonight, a jury found Alex Murdaugh guilty of murdering his wife and son. The disgraced attorney from South Carolina was convicted on all 4 counts related to the shooting deaths of his wife Maggie and son Paul. Jurors took less than 3 hours of deliberations before sharing the verdict. He'll be sentenced on Friday. He faces the possibility of life in prison without parole. For years, St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner has been putting certain St. Louis police officers on a special list. Those officers aren't allowed to bring cases to her office for charges because she has concerns about their credibility and integrity.
It's known locally as the exclusion list. Our I-Team's Christine Byers brings us an exclusive interview with an officer who was on that list and a family who wonders whether it costs them justice.
So it hurt me, and finally I got to a point where, like I said, I couldn't do my job anymore.
Roger Murphy's 26-year career with the St. Louis Police Department didn't end how he wanted it to.
I was going to stay another 4 years until I was 62.
Instead, in 2019, Murphy, along with about 20 other officers, were added to St. Louis Circuit Attorney Kim Gardner's exclusion list. It happened 2 years after Murphy made these posts on Facebook. A group flagged them as part of a nationwide sweep looking for racist, sexist, and offensive content on police officers' social media.
You can't apply on warrants. You can't have anything to do with any active cases. If the case comes in, you can't touch it.
Murphy contacted the I-Team after we reported Gardner's office has a backlog of at least 4,000 cases. He says 7 of them are his.
The last I checked, which was a couple days ago, those are still sitting there from 20 and 21.
The exclusion list affected his other cases, too.
There we go.
Nancy Cabala's brother, Larry Keck, was murdered in 2018. He was 68 years old and was beaten to death.
Anybody in need, he would help them. We were all very heartbroken of what happened and how it happened. It was very brutal.
Murphy was the lead homicide detective on the case. Keck's ex-boyfriend was charged.
When I spoke to him after my brother was killed, he seemed very knowledgeable.
By the time his case went to trial, Murphy was already on the list. He refused to testify. Without Murphy, prosecutors relied on the testimony of another detective on the case.
And they questioned her numerous times as to why the original detective was not there.
How did you learn that he was on the exclusion list?
I learned from you that he was on the exclusion list.
The trial ended in an acquittal.
Do you think that his testimony would have made a difference in your brother's case?
I would hope that it would have, only because they questioned the validity so much, which made me think his testimony was crucial to this case.
Do you think that this list needs to be made public?
Yes.
Why?
And if I would have known going into this that he wasn't going to testify and it would have been a huge issue, then I would have questioned it. Maybe we could have delayed the trial. Maybe we could have done something else.
Murphy agrees.
I didn't do anything wrong. There's nothing illegal about it.
Gardner would not tell us how many officers are on the list, and she declined our request for an interview. She sent a statement which read in part, "There are officers whose past behavior has proven them to be untrustworthy in criminal proceedings." Leaders here at the St. Louis Police Union think there's about 40 officers on this list, but they only know if an officer tells them. Murphy thinks there's more. When he was put on the list, then Chief John Hayden ordered him not to tell anyone.
The guys wouldn't talk about it, for fear of retribution from the department.
Do you regret making those Facebook posts?
No, not with Bet. Not one bit. She's the one hurting all these cases, not me. I chose to take a stand and go, I'm not going to testify for your office.
Do you think about those families?
Every day. Every day.
Other prosecutors who find police officers to be questionable use Brady lists. They are public, as are the reasons why officers are on them. To learn what St. Louis's new police chief, Robert Tracy, is doing to address Gardner's exclusion list, read my story on KSTK.com. For the I-Team, Christine Byers, live on your side.
It is spring break travel season, and if you're planning on taking a flight, TSA has some tips to add to the travel checklist. TSA wants to remind travelers, please leave your weapons at home. The gun seizure rate at Missouri airports, it is nearly twice the national average. Also, remember you can bring 3.4 ounces of liquid in your carry-on, but it doesn't include alcohol. And TSA says with travel ramping up, getting to the airport early is always a good idea.
We ask the passengers to get to the airport about 2 hours prior to their scheduled departure time. And when we say that, we mean get into the terminal. If you're bringing back a rental car or you're trying to find parking, add that in addition. But 2 hours will give you enough time to get through the check-in process and through security with no issues.
St. Louis International Airport says they're expecting nearly 15,000 passengers a day in the next 2 weeks. They also say they could see up to 22,000 passengers a day by mid-March.
Well, right now we are in a weather alert. Chief Meteorologist Scott Connell is tracking the rain with our Weather First forecast.
And it is going to get pretty soggy around here. Metro area and to the north, you start to see the amounts taper off. You're not seeing that much rainfall at this moment as you go north of St. Louis, but boy, to the south and southeast, this has been pretty steady. Already a 1/4 inch of rain in Farmington, and we're tacking it on about 1/2 inch in Rolla. You get down towards Springfield and already upwards of 1 inch. In the metro, most of us have only seen a few hundreds, but it's just getting ramped up, spreading in, and will continue to expand and increase. And also, as you note, with the brighter colors here down to the south, getting a bit heavier in intensity. This is all sliding towards St. Louis, and with this hilly terrain that you'll find as you head south of St. Louis, down Highway 21, down Highway 30, you will find some of those side roads. You get into the low spots, and there's a lot of low water crossings. Those will likely have water flowing over them, and you don't want to drive through those. Flood watch is in effect south and east of St. Louis. It does include Jefferson and St. Clair counties just inside the metro area. Right now, 47 degrees at Lambert. Our dew point's 39. They're coming together as the rain's picking up. 0.05 of an inch of rain. You didn't get much movement on the old thermometer today because of the clouds rolling in this afternoon, and now the rain, and it should stay all rain for us overnight tonight. Look how widespread and heavy it is as you get down into Arkansas, southern Missouri, and then intense thunderstorms here across parts of Oklahoma, spreading into Arkansas, down into Texas. Tornado watch along the Louisiana-Arkansas border up to about Little Rock through the wee hours tonight. This is our storm system, and while that's the center of low pressure at the surface, this is your energy just crossing into Texas now. A lot of energy with this system, and it's going to produce a tremendous amount of rainfall, especially south and east of St. Louis, 2 to 3+ inches. That's why that flood watch is in effect south and east. North and west, it does start to taper off. You get back towards Quincy to Kirksville, you're not going to see a lot of rain out of this system. Look at it expanding through the area in the wee hours. You'll hear this rain coming down, at times moderate to heavy. We'll get a little bit of a break for some of us about 9 or 10 tomorrow morning, and then another boatload of rain as we head through midday. Perhaps there's a wet snowflake or two mixing in. That's not the issue. The winds will be. The winds get strong tomorrow. Gusts 40, 45 miles per hour, perhaps even some wind gusts to 50 miles per hour as we head through the afternoon hours with this intensifying storm system. The severe threat tomorrow off to our south and east. The good news for the weekend, things are clearing up, and it is a bonus weekend for a lot of fun in the St. Louis area as we have all kinds of events going on. plus City SC taking the home field for the first time. 59 Saturday, 63 on Sunday, 72 Monday. After that, it's chilly. Your weather alert all day tomorrow. Anthony will track it for you starting at 4 a.m. on Today in St. Louis.
All right, Scott, thank you. Here's Frank to tell us what's coming up.
And we have a concern for Adam Wainwright. We had a hideous moment in the SIU E-game. Hideous. And Illinois won a classic tonight against Michigan.
The Sports Desk is brought to you by Jim Butler Chevrolet, the Midwest's #1 Chevy dealer 10 years running.
The Blues are in San Jose tonight for one of the least interesting games of the year. Today, they did sign Sammy Blais for $1 million for next season. The trade deadline is 2 o'clock tomorrow. Stay tuned. The Blues have lost 6 in a row, and Logan Couture is trying to make it 7 in a row. That goal where he beats Thomas Greiss gave the Sharks a 2-0 lead. Right now, it's 2-0 after 1 period. Illinois hosted Michigan tonight, and let me tell you about one of the star players for the Illini, Matthew Meyer. Sunday, he wanted to pull an all-nighter playing video games, so he drank 5 cans of the Monster Energy drink. He says he got caffeine poisoning. Kids today. And this is kind of a monster moment. Meyer's going to hit the 3 and is called for the flop, but the bucket will count. But Brad Underwood, in a really sharp sport coat, let the referee know he just blew that call. End of regulation. Jet Howard drains a 3 for Michigan. We went to 2 overtimes. And the monster drinking forward, Matthew Meyer, took over. A 3 there. He had 7 points in the double OT period. Illinois with a thrilling 91-87 win. Love this kid. Love Illinois. Horrible moment in the OVC tourney in the SIU E-game versus Tennessee Martin. Watch closely, right of your screen. DeJuan Pruitt just slugs Riffin Miguel in the face. Play was stopped. Pruitt won't play basketball again this game. SIU E leads it by 1 at halftime. So Shavitz will be rocking tomorrow. It's a sellout. The Dayton Flyers will be in town for a 6 o'clock national television affair. It's senior night, and 7 players will be honored on an emotional night. On senior night, you would prefer to play Chicago State. It's very moving for the coaching staff, saying goodbye to these players. And
it's even tough for the players. You know, you got a lot of family members in, especially guys out of town. It's, you know, a lot of people coming in, different things like that, and you know, usually a lot of times it hasn't been this tough a game at the end of the year, but you got obviously a very challenging game against a great team, so you got to stay focused.
My baseball wish may be a pipe dream. I want Adam Wainwright to go out in style, but he's 41. His velocity is down and his ball is up too much. Only 2 spring starts, but neither has been encouraging, especially today against the Astros. Waino got out of the first unscathed, but in the second, Will Wagner jumps on a hanging curveball and takes it over the wall on a hop. A run scores to make it 1-0. It was 2-0 in the third when the new Astro, Jose Abreu, gets every last bit of this pitch. Exit velocity, 112. One of 4 Waino pitches hit at 100 miles an hour or better. 3 runs and 5 hits off Waino. Houston wins 6-0.
The Houston Astros, obviously world champions, have some pretty good hitters on their ball club, and they just made Waino throw strikes, and he wasn't fooling anybody with velocity, and I think that's something that I think we should be concerned about. And I think I'm more concerned because not only is his velocity down, you throw in the age factor. This is something we probably ought to take a closer look at as we get deeper into spring training.
This is the only bench in America with nobody on it. The Whitfield girls have only 5 players, no substitutes. Hosting Riverview Gardens tonight, Amali McBride will pop the 3. She was great. And the amazing Whitfield story continues with a 59-15 win. It's a big district victory. How about that? Doing it with just 5 players.
Wow, that's a blowout. 59-15. All right, thanks, Frank. Well, fine art and intricate flower arrangements, where you can see both this weekend. A popular burger joint will soon open in St. Charles County. A High Point Drive-In opens in Cottleville on Monday. You'll be able to get those creative burgers, sandwiches, and shakes. It'll be inside the Cottleville Landing Shopping Center. It opens Monday, March 6th at 11 a.m.
Tomorrow, Art in Bloom returns to the St. Louis Art Museum. The annual festival features both fine art and flowers. Many art pieces inside the museum will be reimagined as floral arrangements. The festival is open tomorrow through Sunday.
All right, all that rain. Let's get a final look at the weather with Scott.
Yeah, the flowers there already taken care of. They don't need any extra water. By the way, it is a really cool exhibit if you've never been. We are talking about that rain becoming more widespread overnight. Flood watch south and east of St. Louis. It continues into tomorrow morning. Winds will get gusty. We'll stay on a weather alert through at least lunchtime tomorrow.
And there you have it. 5 on your side at 10. The Tonight Show starring Jimmy Fallon is next.
Jimmy's guests tonight include Brendan Fraser. Start your day with Today in St. Louis beginning at 4 a.m. and have a great tomorrow.